Access to Democracy is made possible by donations from the following organizations. Thomson Reuters, a global company with expertise and insight to unravel complex situations in the areas of law, tax, compliance, government, and media. Their worldwide network of journalists and editors keep customers up to speed on relevant global events. Thomson Reuters, the Answer Company. The Division Championship Minnesota Twins are looking to go all the way to the World Series in 2024. Bolstered by inspirational shortstop Carlos Correa, a healthy Brian Buxton, and rookie phenom Royce Lewis, plus a pitching staff led by Pablo Lopez and an outstanding bullpen featuring Johan Duran, the Twins are the best bargain in the major leagues, and Target Field is the best venue in baseball. Sheridan Dulas & Kins, PA, a family and criminal defense law firm, has been serving clients in Dakota County and throughout Minnesota for over 40 years. Ranked a Tier 1 Best Law Firm by U.S. News and World Report every year since 2009, Sheridan Dulas & Kins are here to help you in your most difficult life circumstances. Established in 2007, 45th Parallel Spirits was among the first 50 micro-distilleries in the United States. Based in New Richmond, Wisconsin, all aspects of production occur at our facility. If you're interested in visiting and learning more about the 45th Parallel Distillery, please check our website and plan a visit to tour our facility and taste our spirits. Truestone Financial, with locations in Minnesota and Wisconsin, has proudly served its members since 1939. Truestone engages, educates, and supports its members to ensure they have the tools to empower their financial well-being. Truestone Financial, your neighborhood credit union. Learn more at truestone.org.
Hello and welcome to Access to Democracy. I'm your host, Steve Francisco. Thank you for joining us for today's interesting episode. We have a leader of one of our premier nonprofit organizations in our community that does tremendous work. It's my pleasure to introduce to our audience today Trish Thacker, who is the CEO, Chief Executive Officer of Guild Incorporated. Trish, welcome to Access to Democracy.
Thanks so much, Steve. I'm really happy to be here.
So tell us, first of all, for viewers who may not be familiar with your organization, what is Guild Incorporated?
Sure. Guild is a community-based mental health service organization. So we work with people who are living with mental health challenges or have been diagnosed with serious mental illnesses. And we provide community-based treatment. We provide intensive residential treatment, case management, supported employment, and we also reach out to people experiencing homelessness and try to get them connected with housing and services.
And what are Guild's roots? Where was it formed?
Sure. So Guild started as the Guild of Catholic Women, and they organized around concerns for people who were being deinstitutionalized when a lot of the state hospitals were closing down. So the original founder, Grace, had just a heart for people that were really struggling and didn't have any places to go. And she and a bunch of volunteers started the organization and began providing services that were person-centered, deeply dignified, and helped people move into their next level of functioning with really the foundational belief that everybody can grow and be stabilized, and people that had been formally institutionalized absolutely could thrive in the community. They just needed the appropriate support.
And Guild is a nonprofit organization, correct? It's a 501c3?
Yes, it is.
So you rely primarily on individual donations. You also have corporate sponsors or corporate donors, foundation grants and such?
We do, and in addition, we have grants and contracts from state and county entities, and we also will bill insurance or medical assistance, whatever the person is receiving benefits through, to provide services.
And tell us about your employees and staff. How many employees does Guild have?
We have 185 staff right now, and I'd be happy to tell you about our staff. We really have a uniquely committed group of passionate people. If you ask any one of them what they love about the job, they will tell you it's working with the clients, with the people we serve, and watching them and walking along with them as they make strides in growth and stability. So we have a great group of folks who are just deeply committed to the work.
And you also have a few volunteers that assist your organization too. Tell us about the role of volunteers at Guild.
Sure, we do have volunteers, and volunteer support is really important, and it exists in different forms and functions. We have people who come into our community support program, which is a drop-in center for people, and they'll teach classes on computing, generating a resume, how to interview for a job, even just some basic computer skills. We also have folks who will come in and prepare hygiene packets for people who are experiencing homelessness so that we can deliver those to folks when we do our outreach. And then other people who provide support and coordination behind the scenes for our events.
Mm-hmm. So one of the key focuses of your organization's work is helping people who are living with mental illness. Mm-hmm. How common is mental illness?
You know, it's a lot more common than people realize. I believe people are starting to get an idea that it's more widespread than folks think. But there's, depending on which data you look at, between 1 in 4 folks. Some folks say 1 in 5, but about 25% of people will experience a significant mental illness within their lifetime, and at least a third of the people that you meet day to day, 1 in every 3, is actively experiencing a mental health challenge.
And when we say serious mental illness, we're talking about diagnoses such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, mm-hmm. depression.
Yep, severe depression. Post-traumatic stress disorder can be disabling, and disabling anxiety conditions as well.
Mm-hmm. Trish, you have an interesting career background. By the way, how long have you been CEO at Guild?
11 months.
So you're fairly new, just
yeah, I'm pretty
in
new.
The first year of the job.
Yes.
But before Guild, you have also worked as a therapist. You still work as a therapist too. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, I believe in meeting people where they are, and it's an honor to be invited into people's lives, into the places where they might feel broken or particularly vulnerable. And through that experience working with people individually, it actually wasn't a big leap to move into leadership, because from my view, leadership is taking the principles of growth, engagement, support, and scaling it to an organization. So it wasn't a really huge step in my mind, because it's really about, so instead of a client being my client, the organization staff are the people that I seek to support using therapeutic principles around support and growth.
Very interesting. It strikes me that that's probably an asset in your job, that you have this background as a therapist and now in a leadership role that has a lot of demands for an organization like Guild.
I think it can be really helpful, just in terms of also, I think some of the onboarding and understanding the programs and the people that we serve, I kind of already have that baseline understanding, which is really helpful. Mm-hmm. And coming from a perspective of support and growth, I think is also helpful organizationally.
Mm-hmm. Tricia, I want to ask you more about this prevalence of mental illness in our society today. That it still seems as if in many places there is a social stigma attached to mental illness and mental health, mm-hmm. in a way that isn't associated necessarily with other types of illnesses. I'm a cancer survivor myself. People who have cancer or chronic conditions such as hypertension or diabetes, mm-hmm. or other health issues. Why do you think that is, that our society treats mental illness, sometimes stigmatizes people, mm-hmm. who have mental illness, in a way that we don't toward other people suffering health challenges?
Mm-hmm. It's a great question, and I think if we had another hour and a half, we could go into the historical supports or this historical backstory. One of the things is that you can't see it. Someone who's experiencing a mental health challenge or serious and persistent mental illness doesn't have a sign that shows what's going on. Mm-hmm. And historically, society hasn't always known what to do with people who kind of paint outside the lines, so to speak. It's also, it's unpredictable. I think it can be unpredictable, and so for some people it's intimidating. It can even be scary. They don't know what to do or how to respond. They're afraid that they're going to do something wrong. And in those situations where people don't know what to do, it's often a simpler response to either act like it's not there, or decide it's somebody else's problem, or that kind of thing. It's really complex, but we can't see it. And the lines for how we treat it, there's not a lot of straight lines because it's so individualized. And even though medical treatment is extremely individualized, the establishment makes it seem like it's kind of that straight line. So
how about accessibility to mental health care services? Isn't that part of the problem too with why it may be stigmatized, that not everyone has access to mental health care?
Absolutely, and that's just, the need is just continuing to increase. There's all sorts of research and data that post-pandemic our needs for supportive services are increasing, while due to a plethora of other circumstances, the support services that we have and the staffing are decreasing over time, which creates a crisis. But when we don't have access to services, then people don't, if somebody doesn't get the care that they need, then they'll end up in a place that people will start drawing their own conclusions. So if I'm seriously and persistently mentally ill so that I can't keep a job and I might then lose my housing, then I might end up on the street. And then there's where some more labeling can occur, and that it's harder and harder. It feels further and further away from our day-to-day experience, even though this is, it's our brother, sister, aunt, uncle, family member.
So Guild takes a holistic approach to treating clients and treating them, first of all, with dignity, but addressing issues that homelessness may be a triggering event for mental health crises, and joblessness and poverty can also be related to that as well, correct?
They can, and sometimes mental health is the crisis that leads to unemployment or being unstably housed or experiencing homelessness. It's different for each person and how that happens, but there's absolutely a feedback loop that can occur between those experiences of having a mental health crisis, experiencing homelessness, and joblessness.
So give us a description, if you would, Trish, of what is your service area geographically? Where do your clients come from? What area do you serve?
Sure. We do serve people in the standard metro area in Ramsey County and Hennepin County, but we actually, most of our services are focused in Anoka, in Dakota County, Scott County, and some of the outer rings.
And what I find interesting about Guild too is that clients don't just need to come to your facility, that you have outreach, mobile outreach, to be able to go to where clients are too. Tell us about that.
Sure. And it's funny. People think that we'd like show up in a car or an ambulance or something like that. We do community-based services, so our staff meet people in their home, wherever that is, to provide services, case management, connect them with what they need. Some of our more intensive treatment teams are assertive community treatment or targeted case management. It's the same thing. They're receiving high level of service in their home, in the community. We always want people to receive the services they can in the least restrictive environment, and it's always best for people if they can receive services in their home where their family and their social supports are.
This is really important, isn't it, Trish? Because not everyone has transportation or has someone who can take them to an appointment, for example. So your ability to reach out to the community and actually go to where clients are is really important.
It is important, and on a human level, it also, how supportive does it feel that the person that I'm working with comes to my home? If someone is willing to come to my home to work with me, to meet with me, that just says a lot about the commitment and the relationship. And yes, there's all those barriers for people who don't have transportation, who might not live in an area that's accessible to a bus line, all of those kinds of things. When we can bring services to people where they are, it reinforces their value as an individual.
So could you give our viewers a better idea, if you would, of what happens when a client comes to you and seeks help? Kind of walk us through the intake process. Who are they seeing? What kind of evaluation does Guild do to make sure that you connect the client with the services that they need?
Sure. Well, and some of that depends on the referral source. For example, if someone is sometimes people are referred directly into a particular program. Someone might be in a psychiatric hospitalization and their step down might be into one of our intensive residential treatment services. So that's Sometimes it depends on the referring agency. Sometimes it's a community member who reaches out about a friend or a family member, and they want to know about services, and we can tell them generally, but then we'll bring them in, we'll do get a diagnostic assessment and find out where do they fit best, what is the level of service that will that they need at this point, and then we can accordion up and down. We can connect them with more levels of service. We can reduce services as they stabilize, so that we can follow people over time and give them what they need to stay in the community.
And again, back to this holistic approach, your website describes 3 core areas: mental health, housing, and employment. We've talked about mental health. Say a bit, if you would, about housing.
Sure.
What type of assistance does Guild provide for people who are experiencing homelessness?
So for people who are experiencing homelessness, we do street outreach, and so that's where we go into the community where we know people are who are experiencing homelessness. And it's really, in the beginning, it's a process of engagement. It's getting to know people and helping them learn that we're going to continue to show up and you can trust us, we're trustworthy, and then we get them into, we help them find the next level of service that they need. Sometimes, in the beginning, we're just helping people stay safe and warm and giving them hygiene kits. And then over time, as they trust us, then we can talk to them about, hey, there's housing here, hey, there's shelter here, and give them the options that we have. And then from there, we have a housing support program, which is where we provide case management. So we provide that support to people who are already housed. If they're not already housed, we'll help them find housing, which is usually in an apartment. But then we, again, come to their home. We provide case management support. So sometimes it's just that they need a single case manager like us, helping make sure that they pay their rent on time and are able to stay in their apartment. Sometimes they need more, and we'll connect them to other benefits through the county where they live, or other services that are available in the county, so we kind of serve as a bridge to bring them what they need. Again,
So you do work closely with places like Dakota County,
Absolutely.
Ramsey County, local government.
Yes.
You work with cities too?
Yes. Yeah.
It seems really important. Let's go to the third core element here, which is employment. And I can see how these things are related, that it's very difficult to get a job or keep a job if you don't have a place to live, if you
Yes.
don't have a place to cook and eat a meal, to sleep at night, to shower, groom
Yes.
yourself. Very hard to get a job. So say a word, if you would, about employment. What services do you provide there for people seeking employment?
Sure. Yeah, we have a supported employment program. It's an individualized placement service program, which is an evidence-based program for how we engage with people and find what they need. But what we do is similar to that, to our housing support, where we help bridge working with the landlord and making sure that somebody can stay stably housed. Our case managers, our supported employment specialists, work with people to find a job that would be a good location, that it's an organization that wants to work with us, with our population. So our employment support specialists develop these really strong working relationships with employers, and then we place people. We help them interview and land the job. They have to go through the whole process, and then we help them gain the skills they need, do some mediation if needed. We all have those days when it's like, I just don't know, I don't want to go to work today, is there whatever, or I got in a fight with someone. And our employment specialists step in and they have that conversation. They call it a save. So we help save the job, we help save the relationship. Sometimes it's a mediation with the employer, but the point is that when we have a job, when we have a place to go like that, when we feel like we're supporting ourselves, it's a boost to our confidence. It helps us feel productive and engaged in our community, so it benefits everyone.
Could you tell us who a few of these employers are? Like, are they names we would recognize in our community? What types of businesses? And I'm assuming they're not just bigger businesses, but also small businesses as well?
They are. I don't know if I have permission to name names, but I
Okay.
can tell you that you would recognize them.
I
That,
would.
grocery stores, other home service areas, there's actually a lot of folks out there who are really committed to being a place that's supportive for people who need a little bit extra in order to stay employed.
And the employee assistance services that Guild provides, would this include things like helping fill out a job application, writing a resume with relevant job experience that they may have had previously?
Yes, absolutely. We'll help them with resumes. We'll do we'll do the role play, helping them talk through some interview questions to help them prepare, so that they can show up for an interview feeling really confident in their ability. And sometimes they don't get the job, and that's life too. And so we're there for them when we have those conversations and help them understand it. This just wasn't the job.
Well,
Here's
as
the next
saying
one.
goes, there's more than one fish to fry.
Absolutely.
You may not get this job, but you may find something else which may in the end be better for you in the long run, a
Yeah.
better fit.
Yes,
that
absolutely.
sometimes happens too. Say a word, if you would, about how your clients react to the services that Guild provides.
We do have testimonials on our website, and which I would encourage people to check out. The people we serve react like any of us would when we're joined as humans. When we interact with somebody, as we're not better than them, we're not telling them how to live their lives, we're helping them meet the goals that they have set forth. That's what being person-centered is. It's like, tell us what you want. Where do you want to live? What are the goals that you have? And then let us help you get there. So we're really joining. We're not, we're very much approaching people like equals.
You're not dictating terms
Yes.
to people for
Yes.
their success. You're working with them collaboratively
Yes.
to find a way for them that works for them
Absolutely.
to succeed. That's
Absolutely.
very interesting. You know, when we talk about homelessness, I remember, I'm sure you've heard this statement too. Somebody once said, I don't know who it was, but it made an impression on me, that pretty much most Americans are only 2 paychecks away from finding themselves living on the street. And
Yes.
there's historically low level of savings among many people in our country because they can't afford to save, or they have expenditures that keep going up for housing, rent, and such.
Yes.
Isn't that true? And there's a tendency when people fall into this position, you know, that could actually be any of us, it would seem.
Absolutely. And similar to that statement, I've always said, you know, we're all just one small emergency away from experiencing homelessness. I used to work in shelter, and there were people in shelter who were attorneys with a license who, you know, maybe a divorce, maybe a really challenging situation arises, and all of a sudden the resources that they thought they had, they don't have anymore.
Well, we know that one of the leading causes of personal bankruptcies in America is healthcare bills. If you
Yes.
have a healthcare crisis and you don't have adequate health insurance, and you are have to pay those bills, it could drive you into bankruptcy. Very tough
Absolutely.
to deal with that.
It is really hard. And, you know, the people, the percentage of people experiencing homelessness who would be categorized as seniors is also just continuing to rise. And it's, I think it's just deeply sad to go to a shelter, for example, and see people with walkers and canes who are staying in shelter. You know, none of us would want that for our brother, sister, mother, father.
And people who have probably had long careers, worked productively, contributed to society,
Yes.
and that's no way to live in your senior years or at any age, really.
Yes, yeah.
I do want to circle back real quickly and tell you, as I mentioned before we started recording the program, I did go on your website and looked at each of the testimonials, and I encourage our viewers to do that as well. They are very strong, convincing testimonials, which really testify to how Guild has changed lives, and I would even argue has saved people's lives because of the nature of the work that you and your tremendous staff and volunteers have done. So I hope people will look at that. Where can they see those testimonials? What's the website?
Guildservices.org.
Yep.
Please check it out.
So I want to ask you too about your partnership. Guild works closely, as you mentioned earlier, with local government. There has recently been the opening of a new facility which Guild has worked closely with Dakota County on. It's called the IRTS, Intensive Residential Treatment Services Facility. Tell us about that. Where is it? When did it open? What did they do?
Sure. Yes, so in partnership with Dakota County, through state bonding and a lot of advocacy, and just built this facility. We had the ribbon cutting just this past Monday. So it's a Dakota County crisis center. and crisis and recovery center. And so on one half of the building, people can come in. It's called a place to go, and that's literally like, do you need a shower? Do you need support? You don't know where to go. You come to this place that's staffed through Dakota County. And then the other half of the building is our intensive residential treatment services.
It's in West St. Paul?
Yes,
is that correct?
yes, it is. It's in West St. Paul. It's literally adjacent to the government center on Mendota Avenue. So we have a 16-bed intensive residential treatment service. And so some of it can be crisis, and those are folks who come in for 5 to 10 days to stabilize if they're experiencing a mental health crisis. They can then transition into the intensive residential treatment, which is up to 90 days. But it's 16 beds. The whole facility was built with trauma-informed design principles. So it's open, there's natural light, it's safe. Everyone has their own room. Everyone has their own bathroom. You know, if you imagine what it would be like to be experiencing a mental health crisis and needing this kind of intensive service, it would be so hard to have a shared bathroom, to have a shared bedroom, and everybody gets their own beautiful space with their own bathroom. And then we have these really welcoming public spaces where people can come, and we do groups. And we help people stay connected to each other, because that's really important as we're healing and doing that hard work of growth and healing, that we have other people that we can connect to in a safe environment. So it's a beautiful space. It's been a wonderful partnership with Dakota County. We also had a significant donation from the O'Gara Family Foundation, who they're supporting
the restaurant owners in St. Paul, those O'Garas?
I believe so, and they've given us support for our first year of operating expenses. So it was a significant investment.
Wow!
And they had some influence and some input about some of the choices and murals and things like that in the building. But it's beautiful.
Would I be correct, Trish, if I were to say, while it's certainly wonderful that we now have this brand new facility, 16 beds, probably could use an even bigger facility given the need out in the community too?
There's the need, absolutely. So intensive residential treatment services often kind of bridge between a psychiatric hospitalization and intensive outpatient services. So there's this place where if somebody's been hospitalized, so 24/7 in the hospital with all of those layers of medical care, and then if they go to intensive outpatient, which might be 3 days a week, that's a really big span of going from all of this supervision to a lower level of care. And intensive residential treatment service is voluntary, it's beautiful, it doesn't have that same, it's not a hospital, so it doesn't have that same feeling, and it can bridge either people coming out of the hospital or people who are trying not to go into a psychiatric hospitalization.
Yes.
They can come into this facility and be stabilized and return to their community. And yes, there is a huge need for services of this type. 16 beds is, per statute, it can't be any larger than that to be this kind of a facility, so perhaps we could use some more.
And so I want to give you a chance to tell us about your big fundraising event every year that you do annually. This is how I came to know of Guild. My wife and I came to know of your organization. It's called the Ladder of Hope event. Tell us real quickly, we have less than 2 minutes. Tell us about Ladder of Hope.
Sure. We have Ladder of Hope events around the holidays, and we're really committed. It's an hour. So people can come in at their lunchtime. We'll get them in. We'll get them out at the right time. We're committed to that. But then,
and I can say from personal experience, you stick to that.
We
hour.
do.
Yeah.
And thank you to the advancement team and everybody who worked really hard to make that happen. But what we do is we bring in the people we serve. We bring clients who tell their own story. And it's incredibly powerful to hear someone's story from their own mouth in that interpersonal space, and so that it helps folks understand these are the services that we offer, these are the people we serve, this is why we do it. We're here because we serve. So we let people hear from the people who
and
who
the
have worked
event
with
is
us.
Usually, is it November or it's
There's
November?
November and December. Yep.
And December,
Yep. There's usually
yes.
one in November and 1 or 2 in December.
And
so.
the ones that I've attended have been at the Intercontinental Hotel at MSP Airport,
Yeah,
so
it's a
pretty
beautiful space.
accessible for those of us living in the South Metro area. So for our viewers, if they want to learn more about Guild or would like to consider making a charitable donation or donating time, where can they go?
They can go to guildservices.org.
Trish Thacker, Chief Executive Officer of Guild Incorporated, thank you for the tremendous work that you and your staff and your volunteers do in our community, helping people living with mental illness, homelessness, and joblessness. And thank you to our viewers for appearing or for watching our program today, Access to Democracy. Thank you.
Thanks so much.